This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. From the big plays to life's everyday moments, see it all in sharp focus with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIK.
I didn't know as much about him then, but my first college game was Oklahoma, Nebraska in Lincoln. And just a couple of years later, and I got to sit right behind Gary Gibbs was warming the linebackers up there, and that was our seats. And I'm like, that dude's a badass.
Brent Venables on Tuesday at his Kent State press conference. Welcome back, Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. Welcome back to a William and Lauren practice report, and you can feel it in the air, can't you? Kent State week, George.
Yeah, super exciting, super exhilarating here. No, but it was fun to hear from Brent today. He went for like 42 minutes. You heard him there talking about the
longest
pause.
Press conference of the year.
It's up
42?
there. Maybe early, maybe the first one. The first one was pretty long,
sure.
But it was definitely long. But getting to hear him talk about the Boz, he talked a little about Barry Switzer. So you can check out the full press conference over on our YouTube page.
And a lot of that, obviously, because on Saturday, Oklahoma will be honoring the 1985 National Championship team in Norman as part of the Kent State festivities. There are some storylines, though, going into the week. Obviously, Michael Hawkins taking over at quarterback. You can see his interview on the Soonerscoop.com editorial page from Monday night when we talked to the players. And, you know, I certainly, just from a Michael Hawkins standpoint, we'll hear from him more on Thursday on the game day preview this week, but he certainly seemed like a little bit more mature guy, a little bit maybe more comfortable in front of the cameras on Monday night as opposed to last year when he's being thrown into this situation, we'll call it, with Oklahoma offensively.
Yeah, and look, Michael's a very reserved guy, kind of quiet, but I think that he's also more vocal behind the scenes. I thought he was great yesterday. Very confident in himself, very confident in the guys around him. I thought very complimentary of the coaching staff that have helped develop him, as well as even a guy like John Mateer, which we'll talk about a little bit later, how he's kind of helped Michael as well.
No doubt about it. Before we get into everything that Brent Venables had to say, as well as some from Ben Arbuckle, we'll do a little bit of a twofer here with Brent Venables specifically in this show and then Ben Arbuckle in another show, but they're both going to be in the show. Just bear with us here. Let us tell you about our good friends over at William & Lauren, the official custom clothier of OU football. William & Lauren outfits your favorite OU players in custom suits that boost their confidence off the field to match their confidence on the field. Their perfectly tailored clothing ensures every suitor stands out in comfort and style at prices that make luxury accessible. You can visit William & Lauren in Oklahoma City or in Tulsa, or also online at williamandlauren.com. That is williamandlauren.com. Dress like a champion to make your style as legendary as Oklahoma football. Did I miss it? No, I don't. Did we miss our guy?
Wes Goodwin.
Coach Goodwin?
Yes. The Daniel Akinkumi has also got a great suit.
Very stylish fits from over, not across the pond, but for a guy from across the pond, if that makes any sense. All right, let's get into it. Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle did talk about Michael Hawkins on Monday. Obviously, he's headed into his fifth start in an Oklahoma uniform, and certainly a better situation that he was put in a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, totally. In a lot of ways, it's similar, right? In terms of, I think I wrote about it this morning, but it's going to be exactly 378 days since he was thrown into the Tennessee game. 371 days since he started against Auburn. So almost exactly a year later, being thrown into kind of the fire, but it's a different type of fire. The flames are much lower. You've got a better offensive line. You've got a lot of playmakers around you. I think the biggest difference is an offensive coordinator and a quarterback's coach that can kind of mold this thing and develop you and make sure that you're in a comfortable spot. And then also you had a bye week to prepare. You get a team in Kent State that's just not very good and that you can kind of experiment and should still be able to play well to kind of get you ready if you do have to play against Texas. So, again, similar in some ways in terms of the timing, but also very different in terms of all the external factors going into it.
And there's, as you're going to hear from Ben Arbuckle here, is something that you asked of him on Tuesday afternoon. There's some similarities, right, in what John Mateer and Michael Hawkins can do. Obviously, John Mateer, a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more veteran presence in the huddle. But at the same time, it is going to be interesting to see what this offense looks like with Michael Hawkins, who has a little bit more of an ability to make plays with his feet.
Yeah, and I think they're going to play to that. Maybe not much against Kent State. Like I wouldn't I would be surprised if
Sure.
if they're running Michael Hawkins a ton, because you can't afford to get him injured. But if he starts against Texas, I think that's going to be a huge part of the game plan, is trying getting him out of the pocket. We saw last year some of his best throws were rolling out of the pocket, and then using either his legs to get upfield or complete some passes down the field. So I think you're definitely going to see them kind of tailor and fit this offense to mold what Michael Hawkins does best.
On Tuesday, here is Brent Venables as well as Ben Arbuckle talking quarterback one for now, Michael Hawkins.
Excited about seeing Mike Hawkins back out there. I know we talked a lot about him on last Thursday, so I don't want to be real redundant, but he had a good bye week, had an excellent fall camp, and the team believes in him. And he's a guy that believes in himself. He's in a much different place than he was a year ago, just as far as his mental capacity as a true freshman. A lot of growth happens for all players going into year one to year two. He's put a lot of work in, as I've said. I love his level of consistency when it comes to his body of work. And then he's got great self-awareness too. A lot of guys, they have their head in the sand when it comes to self-awareness, and it stunts their growth. Mike's a guy that has great self-awareness and, to me, has a growth mindset.
Obviously, there's some similarities between Michael's game and John's game, but as a offensive coordinator, play caller, how do you maybe adjust to the style of play that Michael plays with versus John, or do you not adjust? Like, I guess, how do you tailor the offense to him?
Well, it goes back to kind of what I said earlier. Throughout the last 10 months, you have to identify the strengths, and not only every quarterback, but every player too. But especially in the quarterbacks, you have to find what their strengths are, and you gotta call the game accordingly to what's going to put them in a position to be successful. And Mike's really, really good at a lot of things. And you're right, they are similar in a lot of respects, but there's a little bit of differences between them. And so just trying to put Mike and the offense in positions to be successful is of the utmost importance. And so it's something you have to be diligent with, and something you have to really work on at practice, just making sure we're all in the right spot, right place, and everything. But Mike's a really talented football player and really, really good at a whole lot of things, and so excited to get him in those situations to be successful.
Now, Tuesday was not a day that a timeline was talked about. Obviously, everybody wants to know, when's John Mateer going to come back? I think much like everybody else out there in YouTube land, you've seen the pictures online. If you're an Oklahoma fan, it certainly seems like the recovery process, or whatever you want to call it, here over the last 4 or 5 days since he got back on Thursday from California with the surgery last Wednesday, certainly seems like maybe that option is open, or the doors may be opened a little bit more than maybe it was, than we thought maybe last week when he's going into the surgery. That's not the story here, though. He is still around the program. He is still mentoring somebody like a Michael Hawkins, and it's not a bad guy to have around as he works his way back to health, and hopefully it is for the Texas game. But for now, it's Michael Hawkins who's the quarterback.
And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's a totally different situation. A year ago, Michael didn't have that veteran to help him, with
he didn't have
offense.
a quarterbacks coach either.
Correct. And so, like, it's total. It's in terms of people to help him. I think it's completely different. And not to say that Jackson wasn't helping him, but I don't think it was the same relationship that obviously John has, and obviously John is much more experienced than Jackson was a year ago in that situation, and it was obviously much more awkward because Jackson was getting benched, and then Michael got benched, and it just wasn't a great vibe, I would say, in that quarterback room. Whereas, we heard from Michael last night, and he basically said it's awesome. Like, he loves that room. He loves working with those guys. And it sounds like he and John specifically have had a really tight relationship.
A little bit of an unusual situation. Yep. You don't see this situation a whole lot in college athletics anymore. I know that was something that was asked to Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle on Tuesday as well. But here are both of them talking about just the relationship between John Mateer, Michael Hawkins.
So the cool thing is that I got to see John in the position that Mike was in. And I got to see Cam and John's relationship and how Cam interacted with John whenever he was the backup quarterback, and the questions and everything that John would have for him and how Cam would answer. And I think that stuck with John. I think John knows that it's not just it's not all about me. I got to make sure that I'm making everyone better. I think that's a mark of a great leader and a great player is you're making everyone better, even the guys in your position room. And the cool thing about Mike is he's absorbed it. It's really been fun this season to see their relationship really grow. I mean, Mike Hawkins, during games, whenever something good happens, he's right there dapping up John, celebrating, and that's a great teammate, right? But the work that goes into being the backup quarterback is really the same work that it goes into being the starting quarterback. And Mike he's a very aware kid, very cerebral kid, and John has had success, being a starting quarterback. So being able to take away from John what he does really well. And the thing about Mike is that you have to have your own identity too. So seeing the things that John does really well, hey, I'm going to try and emulate that. And hey, maybe John does this and that doesn't match me personally, or that doesn't match my game. How can I do something different? I think Mike has done a great job of that. And so it's really cool to see their relationship build. It's cool to see John in that role with the number 2 quarterback, and it's cool to see Mike handle his business the right way as that number 2 quarterback in the relationship with the number 1 quarterback. So it's been great.
Yeah, when you have the right people, to me, it's invaluable. So John and his approach, that's very well received, and then Mike and his humility to learn from a guy that's within a couple of years of age, saying, hey man, I want to do some things like you do. There's a lot that you can teach me. And a lot of young guys are too cool for school and don't want to admit that or accept that, but Mike's been a sponge, and John's got a great approach. He's not trying to teach anybody, but he certainly can and does. And then again, everybody's got to be themselves too. So, but you apply it where it's applicable, and but it's really cool to see that relationship. Mike's come a long way. Mike would be the first one to tell you that maybe a year ago, he was very insulated when it comes to, learning from people around him. And but just several months later, things have, completely changed too. And I do think that the people, in the room matter, as well.
Do want to remind everybody, because this is a non-conference game, there isn't going to be an availability report this
Correct.
week. Get back into that next week against Texas. About said Tulsa. Shout out Trey Lamb. But we will say they are getting some guys back. And I guess as ironic as it is, this is probably the healthiest they've been coming out of the bye week. We talked to Fubechi last night, just in terms of the offensive line health. Seems like that is in a much better spot with himself, as well as Jake Michaela and Michael Fasusi. And then on the flip side, you're getting Giovanni Gibson back, which we are going to talk about here from both Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle. But first, let us tell you about our good friends over at Lucy. Got the Lucy cans right here. Is that upside down? That is upside down.
Nice.
There it is. We're trying to get George over here on some Lucy. 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. They also have the Lucy Breakers, which are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. All you got to do is go to lucy.co/SooterScoop and use promo code SooterScoop to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. And we also must tell you, George, we must tell you all out there in YouTube land, Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. We also are going to tell you about our good friends over at Huel. And we did, I think we talked about this on Monday in the practice reports, or I guess it would have been the recruiting report with Josh. It's early in the mornings. It's chaos in the mornings, at least at my home, and I'm sure it's like that for you all out there. All you got to do is try out Huel, and by going to Huel.com, you can insert the promo code that is SooterScoop for 15% off your purchase for new customers with the exclusive code SooterScoop. And I know that this is going to be a little bit of a staple around the office here because it is easy to ingest.
Yeah, I think Kerry had some for lunch today, and it was delicious, is what he told us. So, I have yet to try the daily greens,
sure,
but they got all sorts of different flavors. This one's peach and hibiscus. So I think my wife will be very much into the Huel stuff.
Welcome back to Oklahoma, Aaron. We have a product for you to try. Huel, complete meal, has all the nutrients that you need to thrive. It has 27 vitamins as well as minerals. And once again, all you got to do is go to Huel.com/SuitorScoop. Use the code SuitorScoop for 15% off your first purchase for new customers. Thank you to Huel. All right, we will. You can clear. You can clear the desk now. Very good. Very good. No, Giovanni Gibson is coming back. Eli Bowen's going to come back for the defensive side of things. And, more than anything, I think when you're talking about Michael Hawkins trying to adjust himself into the offense, you're going to need – what were you smiling about?
Nothing.
What's so funny?
Nothing.
You're going to need somebody like a Giovanni Gibson. And even when John Mateer gets back, because we do expect that to be sooner than later, he's going to come back at some point this season. You need to continue to develop some rapport with those wide receivers.
Yeah, and Giovanni's someone, Eddie, that I think could be a big difference maker in this offense. Now, we'll see how quick can he get acclimated back to playing football and also playing football at a much higher level than he was a year ago. But, going back to the spring, we've said it a ton on here. We heard Giovanni's name.
Feels
pretty
like
much,
a long time coming, doesn't it?
Pretty much every single day. Like, this is a dude that's making a lot of plays. And then you just see him physically. He offers something that I think that receiver room, as good as it's been, just doesn't have right now. So I'm excited to see him get on the field. Going to be interesting, again, to see what's the chemistry with somebody like a Michael Hawkins versus what it might be with John Mateer later in the season or whenever he returns. I think that it's going to be fascinating, but I'm just excited to see him get out there and make some plays.
What do you think the realistic expectation, from a snap count purpose tomorrow or on Saturday? It seems like, you had the Kendall Dolby thing, and those, this is a significant injury that he's coming off of with the broken leg.
It's a fascinating question, especially because the opponent as well.
You would think maybe that would be able to give him more run?
I think if you could get him 20 to 30 snaps, that would be a really solid start.
Sure.
And again, you look at the wide receiver snaps this year, it's Deion Burks is playing basically every single snap. Isaiah Satania is right behind him, and Keontez Lewis as well. And there hasn't been a whole lot of guys after that. So I would think in a game like this, though, you could work in Giovanni, especially in the second half, a ton, and just see what he can do and let him get out there and play a little bit. So if he could get 30 snaps, I think that'd be great.
There's been a lot of talk about working on themselves, obviously coming out of the bye week, but when you have Kent State, and I think we can be honest, it's not a very good football team. You do kind of look at this as like a dress rehearsal almost for what's to come with that schedule ahead. And obviously OU Texas next week. Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle talking about Giovanni Gibson.
Has a great maturity and toughness about him. He's been super consistent when it comes to the rehab, and that can be there are a lot of emotional challenges that a lot of young people go through, and I'm sure he'd be the first one to admit. I don't want to speak for him, because I'm always trying to be on the positive side of it with him, and he's been fantastic. He's received that well. I haven't seen anything other than that, but I'm sure if you gave him true serum, he'd say, "Man, I had some tough days and tough moments along the way." And where he couldn't see, this week or last week, where he is, where it gets pretty cloudy. And I know Kendall Dolby, he went through a very similar injury and just a lot of, tough moments. And he's still working his way back and doing great. But I've been really proud of Giovanni, just again for his consistency. He's attacked the rehab. Over the last several months, and he hadn't flinched. He's just refused to flinch. He stayed right on schedule, and probably, if the doctors were to tell you, he's slightly ahead of the schedule. He hasn't had any setbacks along the way, and it's just been fun to watch him get back out there with the guys and watch his teammates really just encourage him and pull for him and celebrate some of the successes he's had the last few weeks, just being back out there. That's a very innocent space that I just have a great, appreciation for.
First thing with Giovanni, it's just I'm excited for him personally because the kid loves football and he loves being around the team. And so just seeing how he handled himself during the injury, and the whole process that took, you could tell it really kind of took a lot on him, but he's a very mature kid. He handles his business well. And so I'm just excited for him to get back to playing the sport that he loves. And he's been awesome these last, really month or so just in the final stages of that rehab process, with the training staff running at practice, getting extra catches in, getting great mental reps during practice. So I'm excited for him to get reacclimated into the game of football, get reacclimated into the offense, and really find his spot. And I think he's a big-time playmaker. I really do. And we just got to get his football legs back under him, if you would. But the way that kid works and the way he approaches everything is awesome. So I'm excited to see Giovanni get back out there on the field.
One of the great moments so far for Giovanni Gibson was just watching him talk shit endlessly to the Michigan guys during the game. You saw some of the clips.
I think he's a big talker.
Would love to see that on the field for him for production standpoint. How about that? All right, very tough today. We're recording this during a Cubs game, so it's the playoffs. Bear with me. Defensively, though, it's been unbelievable, and I tweeted out a picture of it. I got the game notes right here. You look at the defensive rankings for Oklahoma from an NCAA standpoint and the SEC, but they're basically first, second, or third in every single defensive category that you could throw out there, whether it be sacks, third down percentage, which is first in the country in both nationally and SEC. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's been kind of maybe like almost under the radar, just how good this thing is, how quickly
I don't know if it's been under the radar.
What about how quickly this?
Yeah.
I mean, from what he inherited in 2021 and coming out of what they were in 17, 18, 19, we've rehashed that time and time again. It truly is kind of incredible, though, that you look up and Brent Venables is fielding. I think, like, after we watched a bunch of college football over the weekend, one of the best defenses in the country that can still get better. There's still plenty to work on.
Yeah, and they're going to face a lot better offenses, as well. Like we saw Auburn this past weekend. They might just stink on offense.
No, that's fair.
But in Michigan, they're getting better, I think, and they'll get better as the year goes on. But, I mean, they've been awesome. And that's what was expected. Now, I think that we'll see what it ends up being at the end of the year, but I definitely think this is like a top 10 defense in the country right now, and you can win a lot of football games with that. But you look back at Brent's history, he did the same thing at Clemson. You look at the numbers from his first year there till about his third, fourth, fifth year, all of a sudden Clemson's in the top 5, top 10 in every single category. So Brent knows how to build this thing up defensively, and you're seeing it pay off right now.
And there is that turnover thing. And
last in the country.
It's kind of incredible that they've been so good. And you talk about whether it be the defensive line or the linebackers or, every level of the defense, you can point to a couple guys, right? Like they're having fantastic seasons through the first 4 games. You haven't been able to have that turnover yet. They haven't forced one.
No, I'm going to make a prediction, though. I think they get at least 2 this coming weekend.
And maybe they come in bunches here as they make it into conference play. But Brent Venables did talk about his defense on Tuesday as well as the turnover issue that is kind of plaguing Oklahoma currently.
I'm confident in the people I work with every day. That's what I'm confident in. And as I've said, not just because you have a talented roster doesn't mean they're going to be known as a great unit. There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot for us. We've done well. We've passed a very small test up to this point in time, and the true test and the identity will be defined. When the season's completed, and that's the challenge for this team. Are they going to stay focused, dialed in? Are they going to stay? Are they going to have the willingness to continue to put the work in and stay humble and, again, have a great awareness, things of that nature? So it's been good. It's been good. This is a group of guys, as I've said, man, they let you push them to the limit. They receive coaching very well. They've got really good self-awareness. They show up every day like something's on the line. Passionate. You watch the interaction with each other. There's a real chemistry and a love, trust, and respect that the really good units got to have. And so that's the test. I don't call it luck's not the right word, but the stove is hot, and we need to And again, we're going to continue to emphasize turnovers. Started yesterday's team meeting with a turnover presentation. Coach Valai did a great job teaching the offense what the defense is being taught. A lot of great video examples, both in college and the NFL, what it looks like and how we teach it, what our drills look like. And we start practice every day with a really cool turnover circuit that it'll pay dividends. We got to do a better job of being more purposeful in practice. All those good reps, and I don't want to be that team that's over there trying to rip at the ball and nobody's tackling the ball carrier either. That's bad football. And but at the same time, man, we need to create turnovers.
The irony, and it just struck me as he's talking about that, with kind of sounded like Speed D, right? With Alex Grinch and that group that focused on turnovers, and they did that. They just couldn't stop anybody. Certainly, you have a opportunity to do so coming up on Saturday. Should be an ass whooping.
Yep.
You could probably name the score, but then you look at the rest of the schedule ahead. It's mighty tough, obviously, with Texas next week.
Yeah, and you got to flip the field, right? He mentioned some of the numbers today in terms of Notre Dame and Ohio State last year, and I think he said Notre Dame was plus 18 in the turnover margin, and they didn't have a ton of explosive plays, but they got the ball back in great position for their offense a year ago. And I think Oklahoma, not that their offense isn't going to have explosive plays, but think about how much better that offense could be if the defense could give them some short fields. So especially in league play, I mean, we saw it this past weekend. Some of the turnovers that happened in some of those big games in the SEC were the difference. So if Oklahoma can start forcing those, then you really like their odds.
Last but not least, kind of same conversation talking about Giovanni Gibson. Eli Bowen will get back to the quarterback room, or at least onto the field on Saturday for his first action of the season. It will be interesting, just like Giovanni, to see how much you can throw at somebody like Eli Bowen that is certainly going through it with some of the foot ankle injuries that have kept him off the field this year.
Yeah, in the rotation there's been quite a bit. You've seen, mostly Gentry Williams and Cortland Guillory, but you've also seen a guy like Davon Jordan, Jacoby Johnson. So there's room for, I think, Eli to get into that rotation and just see where he's at. Is he going to be the same player that he was a year ago? Obviously, an All-American as a freshman, was super impressive. Can he get to that, level this quickly? I guess we'll have to see.
All right, that's going to do it for a recap of everything that Brent Venables had to say. We'll reset, go through some of the offensive stuff, particularly Ben Arbuckle talking about his relationship with John Kucieski.
Yep.
Kucieski.
That was
pretty good at it. I'm pretty good at this pronunciation thing, but certainly interesting. I think that, Coach Coos, as they call him, or is it Coos, in the quarterback room? You're not in there?
Nope.
We need to check the... I was trying to think of the microphone that we put in there, but that was a bad joke. But I think his role just in all of this with Michael Hawkins here over this next week and a half, whatever it's going to be, is super, super important. You can watch the Brent Venables press conference here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, as well as Ben Arbuckle in full. Plenty of stories to come that are already up on the website right now, even though it's Kent State week. I know that's not the most exciting thing. There still is plenty of information to delve through, as Oklahoma now, up to 5 in the AP poll. So kind of incredible that they're already skyrocketed up there. And with all the games that they have ahead of them, you start dreaming, I think, a little bit. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.